Hello and welcome to The Game, football podcast from The Times and Sunday Times. First Enzo Maresca and now Ruben Amorim, the Manchester United head coach, sacked on Monday morning following critical comments directed at the club's hierarchy after the 1-1 draw with Leeds. It comes just days after Maresca left Chelsea following a similar and very public breakdown in relations with his club. With Liam Renior on his way to Chelsea and United without a manager, what next for both of these big clubs? And indeed, what is the future of the role of manager in modern football? Elsewhere, Thomas Frank is booed again by Tottenham fans. Liverpool and Manchester City drop points as Arsenal go 6 clear at the top, and West Ham look doomed. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Tom Clark, and joining me today we have the senior sports writer and Sunday Times columnist Alison Rudd, the football reporter who covers clubs in the south with a focus on Chelsea, it's Peter Rutzler, and the former footballer turned journalist Gregor Robertson here as usual. Team, wonderful to get a bit of breaking news just before we record this podcast. That is just when we like it. So let's start with that huge news out of Manchester United. Ruben Amorim sacked as their head coach. Darren Fletcher will take charge of the next game against Burnley in an interim capacity. The club statement saying, with Manchester United sitting 6th in the Premier League, the club's leadership has reluctantly made the decision that it is the right time to make a change. This will give the team the best opportunity of the highest possible Premier League finish. The club would like to thank Ruben for his contribution to the club and wishes him well with the future. Jokes, get out, we don't like you anymore, here's millions and millions of pounds. Chaos again, chaos in the Premier League. Honestly, there is never a dull moment. Snap reactions to Ruben Amorim, gone. Gregor, right call? Bonkers?
I mean, it's the right call. It's been a disaster from start to finish. Just in the bare numbers, like you see it doing the rounds of stats, a 32% win record, the 4th worst points haul of all Premier League teams. Only West Ham, Spurs and Wolves have collected fewer points in his time as manager. That's not good enough for Manchester United manager. And then, he just never gave anyone the feeling that he deserved time, investment and faith. And, ultimately I think the club realised that eventually. I think that's what's been happening in the last few weeks. He's obviously had some conversations with Jason Wilcox, the sporting director, about tactics, about transfers this month, maybe both, and possibly how those two things are related. And he's not liked what he's heard. Clearly the faith has waned and they're not willing to invest as much as he wants to kind of bring his fabled idea to life. And that idea has just been like an anvil around his neck from the start. It's just been weird.
Do you think
Here we go.
He snapped in his press conference because whether it was he planned it or not, it felt emotional. It still felt emotional. Do you think some of those conversations behind the scenes were about the devotion to 3 at the back, and that's why we suddenly saw them shifting, albeit quite briefly, to 4 at the back, because he was being made to, and that to him that was completely untenable.
Yeah, it seemed just even before the game, he was I think he was asked about the switch to a back 4 and its relationship to the transfer market, and he didn't answer it. He shut it down and said, I'm not going to talk about that. And then clearly that's bubbled over either during the game or come out afterwards, and clearly premeditated to come out and go, this isn't,
Yeah, well, let's just
Jason Wilcox.
Let's just go back to some of those comments after the Leeds game where he's basically asking to be sacked, let's be honest, which now looks even more obvious. But Amarim speaking after the match saying, I noticed that you receive selective information about everything. This is speaking to reporters. I came here to be the manager of Manchester United, not the coach of Manchester United, which begs the question why he signed a contract that said head coach, not manager. But anyway, that is clear. I know my name is not Tuchel, it's not Conte, it's not Mourinho, but I am the manager of Manchester United. It's going to be like this for 18 months or when the board decides to change. That was my point. I want to finish with that. I'm not going to quit. I will do my job until another guy comes here to replace me. Every department, the scouting department, the sports director needs to do their jobs. I will do mine for 18 months and then we move on. I mean, he was literally asking to be sacked, wasn't he, I think?
Yeah, I mean, he was challenging them. I think, it's a different tone as well to after the Europa League final where he was kind of saying, I'll walk away at some point if I don't think I can do this. And now he's saying, I'm not walking away. Basically,
show me the money.
This is the end point as well, and then we'll all, go our separate ways. That's not a very positive vibe to strike. But there's a friction here as well because Sir Jim Radcliffe has said from the start that Manchester United and the hierarchy need to have an idea about the way that the team should play, and then all the decisions should be made to follow that and stick to it. And like there clearly has been a friction has developed here, and also just a massive sort of the scale of mismanagement from Sir Jim Radcliffe and Ineos since they've taken control of the football side is staggering, really. Now
I'm trying to wrap my head around this a little bit, just trying to take a step back, because I think when he was appointed, there was always the sense that if you're going to appoint Ruben Amorim, he's going to play this way, and we've talked about this endlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's then presumably expecting that he'd be able to turn his team into that system. We've talked about how players can't necessarily fit square pegs round holes. Is this the point where it's the penny's dropped and he's realised this isn't going to happen? Like Alison was referring to, he's then changed to a 4, which I think he came out and defended it and said, I needed a year to, otherwise I'd be killed, and then I can try and mix things up. But it doesn't really ring true if you spend that long being so dogmatic.
Yes, I need a year to play 3 at the back so I can play 4 at the back. There. Yeah. Clever, isn't it?
And then not have the money to therefore invest because your league finish is so terrible. That doesn't really add up. So is it just this point where the penny's dropped for him and he's gone, I'm not going to get the players.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get the midfielders. But at the same time, as much as I can sympathise with him there, why has he taken the job in the first place, you could say, if you're looking at the squad and doing it mid-season, enduring all of that to then only to blow it up at this point.
Yeah.
But then the other point is you look at what's happened in the summer, and they've spent 200 million on free forwards that, okay, I think they've helped the team.
Yep.
Buemo,
2 of them, definitely.
Sesko,
yep.
Jury's still out. When we've all known that it's midfield that's the problem, and midfield is still the problem.
And wing-backs as well.
Sure,
still
wing-backs,
really got a wing-back, yeah.
I think there's more there that can be manipulated than midfield. When you're playing Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro in there and making it work, it feels so sticking plaster. So, and maybe that's what he's been told, but he says, I'm the manager of Manchester United. Is he... What's he saying here? Is he saying he has no influence in that summer agreement? Was he not signing off that massive spend?
No, I think
that wasn't a priority.
I think he's just saying, I'm manager. I need to have some influence in who we're signing, because that's how I'll make my idea come to life. And ultimately, there should be no external influence on me deciding the system and the team selection. And I don't think there has been influence on that. I think there's been discussions about that, and he's not liked what he's heard. Essentially, he's not got the support anymore to continue to sign players to play in the way he wants to play, because, as I said at the top, he doesn't deserve the faith that he wants.
But it is fascinating timing. Pete's touched on some of it there, but and bringing in Chelsea slightly as well. Both clubs are in 5th and 6th in the Premier League at the minute, both on 31 points, 3 points behind Liverpool in 4th. Do we think that the January transfer window be opening, and also the situation in the league this season where, fine, you've got 3 teams at the top of the table who are doing really well, but after that it's kind of chaos for the last 2 Champions League places? Is that part of this as well? Because in some respects, Ruben Amorim this season has been better than he has previously, and recently got some good results. They're 6th in the table.
Yeah, they've been playing better.
They've been playing better. That's the thing. That's the odd, slightly fascinating thing about this. Because of his comments, he's ended up getting sacked now. But there's been so many times in this season and in his 14 months at the club where we've gone, God, he can't last much longer than this, can he? And now he's ended up going now with them in a reasonably strong position.
Yeah. Now, I think the only period in which I felt that he's earned his crust has been with the departures, the injuries and AFCON departures, and the team looking really quite bereft of
depleted
options.
Completely. Yeah,
they've actually been putting in reasonable performances, and that has to come down to
he was
him
just
being
winning.
able
He was just winning you over, Alison.
to juggle. But if that juggling involved, this is the hilarious bit, if that juggling involved him playing 4 at the back against his will, he has therefore been indulged throughout his entire Man United career to a degree I cannot believe has happened. Completely indulged. Yes, go ahead. You stick everything on 3 at the back, because that's what you've known, even though it's completely inappropriate for the players we have. He's been completely indulged, and now he's not being indulged, and wouldn't claim to know to what extent he's not being indulged, but he's, for this manager that we've all liked him, he's come across really well. He's a really affable guy in press conferences and quite funny. Yeah, but seems quite matey. But suddenly you realise the guy's got the most enormous ego if these conversations have made him feel his job is untenable and he's asked to be sacked.
He's affable, but he's also been really damaging. Like, he says so many unnecessarily scathing things of his own players and his own club, about the worst team in Manchester United history, and you're the manager of them. Like, he says things that he doesn't need to say and that have not helped. And he's been indulged, but he's been indulged. If you read Christian Eriksen's interview by Tom Allnutt recently, he said, "No, we read that. And we were like, that doesn't help." So, like, yeah, he's good for us. We had this discussion where we came on. Like, you have a press conference and he gives you a newsline. Brilliant. He always says something, and that's great for us as journalists. But as a manager of a football club, I think he's been quite destructive.
But isn't all that indicative of someone who has been indulged in the way that modern managers are not and are answerable to hierarchies?
Indulged how, though? He was hired
because he was allowed to. There were no repercussions to him saying Man United are in the worst position they've ever been in.
What could he say? What would those repercussions be?
Well, they could have had a word and said, "This is not what we want you to say," and asked him to temper his output.
For me, that also brings us back to Manchester United's hierarchy. It's an unmitigated disaster. Like, the whole Dan Ashworth debacle, who was the man who raised big question marks and red flags about hiring Ruben Amorim. Incredible. The man who's now in conflict with him is Jason Wilcox, who has 1 year of experience as a sporting director with Championship Southampton on his CV. He's got a good record as an academy director at Manchester City. Yep. But he's a rookie as well in this job. And then, like, Omar Barada is like, as a businessman more than a football man. And then you've got Jim Ratcliffe, who's saying, like, who often, talk about how matey he is with them, and they're all telling each other to F off and, like, great.
Said recently on the Times podcast he'd give
3 months ago he'll give him 3 years.
Yeah, give him the rest of his 3 years.
It's a disaster. That's before you think about all the optics about culling swathes of the workforce just before you announce a $2 billion stadium regeneration project. The club is a disaster zone at the moment, and so Jim Ratcliffe has made it worse, not better. Yes, he's kind of put the Glazers into the shadows, but his management of the club has not been any better.
Where do they go now then? Because I referenced that point in the table. I'm actually looking at the table and going, they're actually in a good position here. For this season.
The league's bizarre, though. I mean, they've won one of the last 5 games, and that was a scruffy, fairly fortunate win against Newcastle, courtesy of a great strike by Dorgu. There have been improvements. There ought to be after a year. And there were moments where you see, like, okay, this could just about work. If Fernandes collected midfield with Casemiro, that briefly happened, although it's not the future. Yeah. The fact that the forwards gave them players who look suitable playing in those 10s, still don't have wing backs. Like, getting Lissandro Martinez back was fit as good, but I come back to it. I don't think at any point, even the good points, the high points, you looked at Ruben Amorim and thought you deserve the faith that you're looking for, and the sort of the belief and the investment and the time that it's going to take to make your idea, which is not even an idea.
You know, the funniest and best thing that could happen would be for Oliver Glasner, who currently plays 3 at the back with Crystal Palace, to go into Old Trafford and say, "I've looked at the team, they're better off playing 4 at the back." Because that's exactly what Glasner did at Palace. He chose his formation based on the players available. And so, as we know, all clubs and countries always appoint the opposite of what they've just had. So Glasner would be the polar opposite of Ruben Amorim.
But that's an interesting point, because if Glasner gave a really good interview to Sky, I think I spoke about this before, a really good interview to Sky Sports a few weeks ago, breaking down his tactics. And the thing that came out of it was, he said, if you look at our games and you press pause, you will see 4-4-2 more than you will see 3 at the back. So, like, he can sit down and explain to you the pros and cons of his system and why he does it. And, like, it's just to get players in certain spaces and areas of the pitch. Ruben Amorim could have done the same. It's more difficult as manager of Manchester United, granted, but he, like, it's like politics. You've got to control the narrative, And he just kept banging on about his idea and never deviating from it. And the Pope not going to be able to persuade him to do any different. If he just said this, like, and I know he did say it, the system is not that important, but like, if he articulated it a bit better, that this is just like a structure, like out of possession we look different. Like it could have been different, but he just doubled down on it week after week as the performances and results got worse.
Yeah, a fellow journalist tweeting, Ruben Amorim leaves Manchester United with a record of 1.24 points per game in the Premier League, the same as Alan Pardew, Chris Coleman and Bruno Lage. I think that kind of list says it all. Where do they go from here? Alison, you're slightly joking about Oliver Glasner, and we never like to kind of base our analysis on just the bookmakers list, but it's a crackers list, I've got to tell you, for the next Manchester United manager. Just reading the top list here. Enzo Maresca, top. Darren Fletcher, Oliver Glasner, Gareth Southgate, Xavi, Kieran McKenna, Michael Carrick, Laurent Blanc, and then we get into the usual Emery, Iraola, Pochettino, Marco Silva. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's in there. Bring back Ole.
They're all impossible because they can't afford them.
Well, Maresca.
Michael Carrick.
The first few you mentioned, but the ones at the end, the ones that you go, oh, okay.
Well, bringing in Chelsea then as well, as I mentioned at the start, like Maresca for 6 months? I mean, why not?
Well, if we're going to have the conversation about, friction with the higher ups, then...
Yeah, but just 6 months. Just 6 months. He's not doing anything else. Why not? If he was managing a Premier League club, going for Champions League places, come and do it somewhere else.
Don't see why not.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Darren Fletcher out for 6 months.
For 6 months?
You never know.
Well, because then you look at the summer and then you've got Glasner out of contract, Iraola out of contract, Marco Silva out of contract. And then you have
So you could see them waiting.
Silva?
You could see...
of contract. He spoke to United and when they were...
Thomas Frank might be out of contract soon somewhere as well.
Marco Silva can be punchy as well.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants a yes man nowadays, don't they?
Well, that brings me perfectly onto my next point. Is that what they're going for? And are there any yes men anymore? Is Liam Rosenior the perfect manager for every job? Should he wait? Should he wait out? He's just arriving at Stamford Bridge today.
There is a broader point, though, with United and Chelsea, with these decisions, which are clearly related to relationship breakdown with the hierarchy, where we only hear from the manager. And maybe that's just an English football culture thing. We're just used to hearing from the manager, which dates back to the idea of the manager having influence in all areas. That's not the case now. We get one half of the story. There's always one person that comes up and has to speak. Even for Chelsea, speaking ahead of the Manchester City game, it's Callum McFarlane, the under-21 coach. And yes, he's there to preview the game because he's preparing the team for Manchester City. But there are 5 sporting directors at Chelsea. One of them could speak just to say, look, this is what's happened. This is what we want to do. This is the direction of the project. And maybe they will still do that. I don't know. But even the same with Manchester United now. These are really important figureheads that don't face the same accountability in press conferences, in those environments, which is the only interaction we seem to get with these kind of one-on-one chance to grill them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. I think supporters don't like that. They will want more visible accountability with that.
But just coming back to your point about Darren, give it Dazza to the end of the season. Like this is a huge opportunity for Manchester United now. I keep banging on about it. You look at that Premier League table, and for Chelsea as well, which is why the decision to move on from Maresca and it seems appoint Liam Rosenior. These clubs need and expect, these hierarchies that we're talking about are going, we can get top 5 here. We can get Champions League cash. That is what this is all about, average. Isn't it? Whilst being not potentially very good. So you talk about waiting for the summer and, then we have our pick of Iraola, Glasner and Marco Silva, anyone else who's going.
No, but the reason I say Fletcher
if they drop down to 7th and 8th, then it's not as good.
No, the reason I say there's a good chance Fletcher is that there's not an immediate obvious candidate, and that he might have the same effect as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He might just there's a connection. Fans will quite like to see someone they recognise. He
understands the club.
He knows the club, all that nonsense. But people at the club know him.
Rubbish.
The players know him.
No, you're right. You're completely right.
And it's for anyone. Doesn't matter who. Anyone could walk in. Like if you could get Ole back again, it would be a lift. The mood would lift. There'd be I'm sure that the system will be consigned to the annals of history.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of an uptick. In that context, they might just continue.
You're predicting some DNA chat.
Both Chelsea and Man United in this instance, though, the departure of the manager has come because of a breakdown in relationship rather than league position.
Yes.
I think you could have, if there hadn't been the breakdown, they could have had board meetings where they decided actually keeping Maresca and Ruben in place we've probably got our best chance of making the Champions League.
But that's why it's such a huge thing now for both hierarchies. Pete's talked about it, Greg has criticised them. They've got to make a good decision now, because if this goes backwards for both teams, there's nowhere for them to hide. They can't blame this on the manager. They've sacked.
Oh,
there shouldn't be anywhere for them to hide anyway, though, Tom.
No, yeah, that's
because it reflects badly on them in the first place that these two guys are so unhappy. If you hire them,
if they get this right and both finish in the top 5, then they'll get away with it.
Short-termism, come on.
That's what football is these days. Come on.
It's not when you're Chelsea. Chelsea don't they want to finish in the top 5, but beyond that, silverware seems like it's secondary. I don't think any Chelsea manager any Chelsea head coach, can ever be content because of the blueprint, the high volume player trading model. Like, there will always come a point where you think progress is being made and relationships are being formed and like chemistry is like bubbling away, and the environment's just right, and then it gets ripped apart.
Well, we should bring in Chelsea with some clarity with the man who covers them for the Times and Sunday Times, because that was part of the reason we were planning this show before Ruben Amorim got sacked. We're going to start with Liam Rosenior, who, Pete, as with time we're recording this, about 11 a.m, we believe is on his way to become Chelsea's new manager.
Yeah, he flew into London yesterday from Strasbourg, as we reported that he was a clear leading candidate. They wanted to wait for Strasbourg's game against Nice on Saturday evening, which Hamza went to and wrote about. And then just to further conversations today, the issue with the appointment is making sure that Strasbourg have someone in place. Gary O'Neill is one of 3 candidates. And Gary O'Neill's quite a big name relatively for Strasbourg. And the reason they have to get this right, Strasbourg, of course, are owned by Blueco, the same consortium that owns Chelsea, is that Strasbourg is pretty combustible. The supporters still protest the multi-club ownership structure. Their captain, Emmanuel Omega, is going to join Chelsea next summer. When he announced that deal in September, led to a huge backlash from supporters. So the idea of losing Liam Rosenior, who has really been sort of a figure of consistency for them for 18 months, is that's going to be a blow when he's going to Chelsea. So they've got to get that right. But Liam Rosenior should really be, well, we think he'll be in charge in the coming days. So, and it's a big decision. I think, we could talk about what Liam is like as a coach. He's been really, really impressive in the work that he's done, particularly at Strasbourg. But it's a massive step up. He's got
huge step up.
Huge challenges.
Good at Hull in the Championship. They were very sad to see him go, and good at Strasbourg. But this is Chelsea. Without wanting to go for all the cliches, this is a massive, massive call, isn't it?
Yeah, he's not coached in the Champions League before. He's going to have to go into a dressing room and win over Cole Palmer and Moises Caicedo and get them on side. He's the Blueco man. He's a company man, technically.
Yeah.
That's why he's been hired.
Right. So the supporters looking at it can see that. They will feel that he's being appointed because he has a long-standing relationship with Paul Winstanley, one of the sporting directors. He knew Lawrence Stewart when he was a player at Hull, and Lawrence Stewart was a young analyst, and they'd spend time together. Sam Jewell from his time at Brighton too, like Winstanley, when he was at the end of his playing career and coaching, which is part of. And when I went to meet him, and he spoke about how warm the relationship was between them, how he can converse with them, and how after leaving Hull, when he was sacked, when they finished 7th just outside the playoffs, it felt quite harsh at the time, considering some of the way they were playing. And the owner came out and criticised the style of football, that he wanted to be very considered with his next appointment in relation to who he's working for, which is incredibly interesting to then go into Chelsea after the back of a fallout between Enzo Maresca and the hierarchy. So the hope will be that already established relationship will help them. But he's got those other big challenges. Chelsea's a different level in terms of the scrutiny, the environment.
What do you think the reaction of Chelsea fans is? Because again, comparing it back to Manchester United, I think lots of Manchester United fans will be broadly happy with this decision about Ruben Amorim, whilst being dismayed at the running of the club. Potentially, we had Martin, who was a Man United fan, get in touch with me before the news late last night, saying he's got to go, he can't survive this, and nor should he. He's been disappointing for so long now. But I mean, Chelsea fans with Maresca, going from Maresca, the guy who won them the Club World Cup, delivered the Conference League as expected and Champions League, to Liam Rosenior, do we think Chelsea fans will be pretty upset about this?
In terms of Maresca, I think his relationship was very mixed with the supporters.
They were chanting his name once he'd had a pop at the bud.
Yes, but that's
about the bigger picture.
That says everything in a way. I think there's a real sort of sense of apathy. There is unhappiness. There's a protest planned for the Brentford game by some supporters. There's concern about the direction of the project. The fact that every time it looks like they might start building, it falls apart. That the last 3 coaches have left. Obviously, Graham Potter was dismissed. Pochettino, obviously, relationship with hierarchy came into that. Maresca, relationship with hierarchy. Is that a stable environment? Can this project actually work?
What a weird whirlpool to be in, eh? Don't win the fans over, then have a pop at the board, win the fans over, but then get sacked because you've had a pop at the board. Who'd be a manager, eh?
Do you think Chelsea fans should care about how Strasbourg fans are feeling? This is part of a family, and if your owners are prepared to treat one of your family clubs like that, what does that say about you as a club? What does it say about your ethics, your personality, your operational, the way you operate? It just seems to me almost callous to treat part of the family like that.
I don't think Chelsea would want to associate themselves with Blueco, the parent company. So I think it's a kind of moot point. I agree with what you're saying. Like, I think they don't want to be associated with Blueco. I don't know, people know better than me, but like I think there's a good chance that Renior will be seen as like an emblem of this project, and
he will have to,
and he's going to. That's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be plain sailing for him at all. Like, particularly if he doesn't get off to a good start.
But did he have any choice? Do you think Pete? Do you think he had any choice
for Renior?
Do you think he had a choice?
He doesn't, does he? I suppose if your employers say we want you to do this bigger job for us, and
isn't that a weird way to be a manager of a big club because you've got no choice?
This is the Chelsea job, right? For Liam Renior, we think about there's no way he'd turn this down. It's an amazing opportunity. You're in 4 competitions. Tom pointed out, good position in the league table. Made some really fantastic players to work with. There's no way he'd turn that down. So, but yeah,
there's no other route. There's no other route for Renior to the Chelsea job or to an elite job. There's no other route to the Premier League. Let's be honest. He's with Hull and he didn't make the playoffs. Like the only chance of making the Premier League,
he didn't make the playoffs.
His only chance of making the Premier League was getting promoted with and then good luck surviving. So like, it's an amazing opportunity. But I'll come back to it. Like, yes, he's going to be seen as a company man, but there's like, you just remember the optics and the sort of the noises coming out of Stamford Bridge when Enzo Maresca was appointed. There was a feeling he would just be the coach. He would be a nice, mild-mannered man.
Oh, he's from the Championship.
He'll focus on. We'll do all the tough stuff. The signings, and he'll mastermind it on the pitch. But we saw instantly, and Pete was there in America on that tour, that he was punchy. He said what he thought. Like, it's a massive failure of like due diligence, character assessment. United did the same, and I'm telling, like, yes, Renior will be seen as like the yes man, the company man, but he's smart and he's really articulate, and like even if in the early stages, the first season, whatever, if it goes really well for him, he'll have the same conflict as Maresca did. He'll get to a point where he'll go, hang on, I've done a good job here. Not just that I want more influence, but I just don't want to be undermined. I don't want you to hinder my chances of making this team a success, which is what you're doing.
Yeah. So
as much as he might be seen as a yes man, and he might go in like with a view of like, yes, I know the big picture, I know what it means to be Chelsea head coach in this structure, there'll be a competitive instinct within him that'll be difficult down the line, even if he is a success.
Talking about that conflict, I just wanted to bring you some more reporting from Matt Lawton and Paul Hurst on the situation at United. They're reporting that a heated meeting with Jason Wilcox, United's director of football, at the club's training complex last Friday was the tipping point for Amarim. Wilcox wanted to provide some feedback after the disappointing draw against Wolves, urging the Portuguese coach to put more trust in his players and abandon the back three system being widely blamed for the team's form. Sources at United suggest Amarim did not respond well to Wilcox's observation. He just blew up, one insider told the Times the meeting took place before Amarim then gave his pre-match press conference hinting at tension between them and the bosses in the January transfer window. With that in mind and the things you've talked about there with Chelsea, one final question on both these jobs. Who's got a tougher job? Whoever gets the Man United job or Liam Renior?
I would say United. personally.
Yeah, just because of the tools at their disposal.
Yeah.
But it's close, though.
That's a remarkable thing in a way. I mean, just go back, they appointed Amarim, and you know what you're getting with him. As much as we can say that the idea hasn't worked and it's the system can't work and it's, the functional wrong players, whatever. They appointed him to do that. That was his CV. That's what it says.
Yeah,
and then tell him not to do that. Yeah. It ends at that point. You can't do that.
Alison, who's got the tougher job? Liam Rosenior or whoever gets the Man United job?
In terms of pure coaching, whoever gets the Chelsea job. In terms of handling the club, whoever gets the Man United job.
Would we agree with that?
No, I'd go the other way around. I tell you, it's close. I mean, just because I come back to it, Chelsea have far better squad, better players, and probably the prospect of more to come. But that in itself creates a problem. Manchester United, you don't even trust them yet to recruit well. So yeah, good luck to both of them.
Absolute chaos. Very quickly, Pete, what do we make of Chelsea picking up a point against Manchester City? I thought this was quite a good game. Good for Callum McFarland's record as a manager, taking on Pep Guardiola once, 1 point. It started quite on the back foot, but grew into this game, and a good point for them on the road.
Yeah, really good point. All considered with everything that's happened in quite a short amount of time, I think it shocked a lot of people, even when Enzo Maresca came out and made his last 48 hours comment. Everyone was sort of taken aback, including in the dressing room. So, Maresca had some good relationships with that squad, with players within it, but they've clearly got behind McFarland. It's great for McFarland. I mean, he's going to a Windsor Light show, he told us, and ahead of the game, and with his family, when he gets a call from the sporting director and says, "Can you be in within an hour?" and he comes in and says, "Right, you're taking the team against Pep Guardiola, your first ever game in senior management." Has his pass changed? He's a security pass because he's in the academy building, so he needed to get into the senior building, and then suddenly he's taking a point from the Etihad. So it's a good story.
After making some good subs at half time.
Good subs, yeah.
Very good second half. Disappointing for City though. This is drop points. You could see on Pep Guardiola's face he was fuming about this, wasn't he, Greg?
He was, yeah. He wasn't particularly happy with the line of questioning afterwards too. He kind of sort of pushed back at the idea that the momentum was shifted by a rookie manager making some positive changes.
How dare you?
He didn't see it that way. He just thought they had one chance and one goal. I don't think it was quite that. I think the lap changed the dynamic with his sort of physicality up front, and the changes that allowed Enzo to move a bit higher up the pitch ultimately led to the goal. So yeah, like Arsenal, certainly it was a good festive period for Arsenal.
Absolutely. We'll be talking about Arsenal after the break. We should just say as well done Leeds United, continuing their excellent run of form over the Christmas and New Year period. But yes, let's take a break, and after the break we'll talk about Tottenham, Thomas Frank, and Arsenal and Liverpool as well. But it's time for a little quiz question. Declan Rice scored his second brace in all competitions for Arsenal against Bournemouth at the weekend. Against which club did he score his first? Welcome back to the Game Football Podcast from The Times. I'm Tom Clark, and I've got Alison Rudd, Peter Rutzler and Gregor Robertson straight in with the answer to the very easy quiz question. Ease you back in the new year. Gregor?
Real Madrid
and Bournemouth will be coming on to talk about Declan Rice and Arsenal very shortly, but let's talk about their North London rivals, Tottenham. Gregor, you were there to witness and hear some more boos for Thomas Frank at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, a 1-1 draw against Sunderland. So much has happened in the managerial sphere that Thomas Frank's been kicked into the second half of the show. But it's not looking good for him still at Tottenham. I mean, a 1-0 lead, Ben Davies the scorer. It's not exciting times for Tottenham, is it? And then Sunderland probably deserving their point, would you say, Gregor?
Yeah, just about for the second half. What you should say is that Tottenham were good in the first half, actually, just still without, showing much chance of scoring from open play. They relied upon a corner again. There was a few efforts from outside the box. Tell had a decent shot. Richarlison worked hard, had a couple of volleys that were mishit. That's what you're talking about. Then you're scraping the barrel a bit. But there was more purpose. I mean, look, obviously after the Brentford game where there were chance of boring Tottenham from the away end, that was an improvement. And also you kind of at the end, you're writing your report with the last 10 minutes, and they're 1-0 up, and you're thinking, hang on, this is a third clean sheet in a row, 7 points from 3 games in the space of 7 days. Suddenly it's a spin, a more positive spin on a challenging week, and then Brian Broby smashes in.
Is that why your copy was so late?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Brian
I knew I set myself up for that.
Yeah.
Then Brian Broby smashed an equaliser. Sunderland had all the momentum. Nearly, Try Whom had another effort. They could have won it. So,
yeah.
and then that's when there were more boos. It just doesn't take much now for boos, considering how many, how bad Spurs have been at home in the calendar year, and it's a bad start to 2026.
Were the crowd quiet throughout, or did they get behind
I
the
think
team?
they got behind them in the first half, and then
when they needed them, they didn't.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Thomas Frank Supporters Association chairwoman chiming in to blame it all on the Tottenham fans instead of the manager, who can't seem to get them to score from open play.
But when you need your fans,
they're not going to make a passing move in and round the box to create a chance for one of the strikers, though, are they? Just because they go, "Come on, Tottenham!"
No, but the last time I was there, the fans were behind the team throughout, and they won. So there you go.
Maybe just get rid of managers altogether. That's what we're learning. Sporting directors and a really raucous crowd. That's all you need. Throw some good players on the pitch and we'll just see how we get on. Speaking of Tottenham supporters, we had quite a few of them get in touch in the last couple of days. One of my colleagues on the sports desk, who I always like to gauge the level of enthusiasm for the manager, has said, yes, I probably am Frank out. However, I would like to know where they're going afterwards, because if they're going for Marco Silva or someone, he can stay a bit longer. Chris Williams, who's a listener, said we'd like to see someone like Roberto De Zerbi at Tottenham. That'd be a mood swing, wouldn't it, from Thomas Frank?
Basically, Ange.
Nicola pointing out that Tottenham are currently 13 points above the relegation places, which is roughly exactly where they were at the end of last season. Have they progressed at all? Thibaut, who's a Spurs fan, got in touch, and I thought this was quite interesting, saying, I'm a Tottenham fan, very much not enjoying another slog of the season, and multiple times now on your show and lots of others, I've heard the narrative that top Spurs squad isn't very good. And I think that's a bad excuse for why this team is not working. Like in the rest of the league, Tottenham don't care to develop players or coach players. It's quite telling that we've just sold Brennan Johnson, our top scorer last season, to Crystal Palace, have it in the fact that he's barely played this season. The squad is not the problem. It's the mentality that players are assets to be traded from team to team rather than young people who need development and coaching. Look how it's turning out at Chelsea. Gregor, watching that team yesterday, what did you think about that idea that actually there's some good players here that Thomas Frank isn't getting enough out of?
Not sure. Was it Nicola?
No, Thibaut,
sorry.
He won't mind as long as you don't be rude. That's fine.
No. I mean, I was actually thinking that very thing when, they read out the team and they put the big images of the players. They've got like some hand to their mouth or whatever, some little freeze frame. And I was thinking, there was very few cheers. Who are they cheering for? Van de Ven. Van de Ven's great, and he's all action, and he's rapid. He's a great defender. Romero, some of them might like him, but he's a loose cannon. Beyond that, they think there's promise and willingness in Archie Gray, in Bergvall.
Although Bergvall's throw perhaps summed up Tottenham's season. Did you see that one? He slipped out of his hand, threw it, and he gave the ball away.
Yeah, honestly, I don't see who there's a real sort of connection with or much love for in this team. A lot of them are on the sidelines. Kulusevski they like, Solanke they quite like.
Yep.
Madison, yes, and I don't think there should be a conversation about Frank in or out. I don't like that. No, I don't think it's fair. He has.
Why? They're not doing particularly well. They're not necessarily taking them on much from last season, other than making them more solid. But now they can't score.
He just got the job. Most of his attack are sidelined with injury. I'll look at another team who have recruited really badly, like Odebert, Tell, Colomani. They all look like the same kind of player. They just float around and don't really actually impact the game very much.
They're also players that thrive in transitions, particularly like Colomani.
Yeah.
When he was at PSG, didn't really fit because he's not technically that kind of player.
Of course, there are question marks about Frank's approach and how conservatives. There was that stat about how many progressive passes Tottenham have made in the last few games, and one player in the opposition has made more. Like Adam Wharton, for example. It's 6 games now. I think 5 in the last 6 games. 5 no goals from open play. It's not good. It's really clunky, but he deserves some time to make it right.
Also missing Madison, missing Kulusevski. That's those players, and then obviously you sign Xavi Simons. Okay, yes, there's a lot of money to spend on him.
He was missing again, suspended.
But also, to move from the Bundesliga to the Premier League, you see how long it's taking Florian Wirtz to get up to speed. There isn't a degree of, and certainly you're saying he's the only sort of one that can do that sort of knit things together that way.
I think he's misunderstood, Frank. I think he wants them to play attractive, attacking football, but he understands you need a base from which to do that, and he understands the limitations of the team per match.
So is he Eric Ten Hag at Manchester United?
When they beat Brentford 2-0, the crowd were with them, and it was reasonably entertaining and relatively free flowing. There was some creativity on the pitch, and Frank said during training he saw that they were buying into that creativity. It's what he wants ultimately, but he knows with the players available at any given point, you can't just throw them on the pitch like Ange did and say, "Have a good time, lads." You've got to have a structure.
Look, I agree, but I think he has to. The one thing he has to appreciate is that you can't go into every game and look at the opposition and think how we're going to set up accordingly. He's got to have, as manager of a club of Tottenham's size, more of a what are we going to do? Like you go into the Brentford game and he looked and he admitted it. He said, "We know how good they are at home. We know these are all their strengths, and we combated them." But it was dire, and the fans were losing the will to live. You can't do that as Tottenham manager. So I think he's got to. It will help when the players come back, and it makes it easier for him to be more on the front foot. But he's got to understand that you've got to have a slightly different approach to life as a head coach of Tottenham Hotspur.
That's definitely his challenge, isn't it? I mean, we mentioned it, but 3 clean sheets in a row. I mean, compared to last season, bloody hell.
Nearly.
Right. Well, yeah.
But also
Almost,
the potential is there as well. As much as they're 13th in the table, 27 points, only 4 points behind Chelsea in 5th. That is the nature of this Cracker season and this Cracker season. But it does mean that teams and managers and hierarchies, when you've got Tottenham, they're going to be going, we need to be up there. Not blooming Brentford, who are beating Everton and Ego Thiago scoring hat-tricks, and Keith Andrews is looking like the best appointment of the summer after we all slagged him off. Sunderland up there as well. Brighton, Fulham doing their usual brilliance in mid-table. Tottenham board are going to be going, we need Champions League again, Tommy lad. We need Champions League again.
The new Tottenham board is also the one great unknown. We don't.
Well, maybe we'll find out in the next couple of weeks what the new Tottenham board.
They're supposed to have money, and it's a question of whether they want to spend it with Frank's blessing or not.
They have to. I mean, there was a great irony that Mohamed Kudus went down clutching his thigh after 15 minutes, 2 days after they sold Brennan Johnson, who's the understudy.
Yeah.
There has to be some, players in the pipeline ready to come in, or else that was a wild decision. Got to spend. Tottenham fans do keep getting in touch with me. We do always enjoy you listeners getting in touch over Christmas, so thank you very much for that. I would just say thank you as well to Richard Fletcher, the business editor of The Times, who, after Gregor hearing my rant about bobble hats, duly brought me one into the office yesterday. So thank you very much, Richard. I will not be wearing it at Sincil Bank this season. Alison, let's talk about Arsenal and the brilliance of Declan Rice. You were there to watch their win against Bournemouth. Looking like champions again?
Well, I mean, I keep flip-flopping on this, but when I see
them
play well and recover, I mean, they went a goal behind to a dreadful gaffe by Gabriel, and you think, wow, Bournemouth have it in them to really make this difficult, but they just aren't wobbling at the moment, and they were led by Declan Rice. I mean, he doesn't wear the captain's armband, but I would say if you did a vote for, if people didn't know,
are you about to take the captain's armband
no, I'm
away
not.
from
But
Martin
if you didn't know who was captain of Arsenal and did a poll for people, he took the armband off and said to people, "Who do you think was the captain?" They'd say, well, "Obviously, it's Declan Rice, isn't it?" Because that's how he plays. He's just dominates to a degree you rarely see actually these days, I think. And he's still relatively young, but he's a proper leader. So yes, he scored his first brace in the Premier League, but it wasn't just the goals. It was his all-round demeanour, passing, energy, everything about him was just quite superb, and he would not let it was as though he made it his personal mission. I'm not going to let this early blip affect us in any way at all. And if everyone else on the pitch can look to him and see that he believes, I mean, he's like 100%. He's drenched in 100% sweat that says we are going to win the title this time. It's quite inspirational, I'd have thought.
Sounds a bit like an aftershave. Declan Rice, 100% sweat, 100% Premier League title winner.
It's like an advert. It's like it's not real. He was absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, I know Bournemouth on a run of not being able to get wins, and they've lost 16 points from winning positions. So you might say, well, they were easy opposition. They're not. They're really, whatever game they play, and they are tough opposition because they press you and they work hard and they're fearless, and that's a hard thing to come up against. But it was just like relentless loving with the away fans, him and Rice and the fans, and his impact on the team was just phenomenal. So and also afterwards, you know, he had a swollen knee for the Villa game, and you know, Arteta's saying, oh, he was really upset about that. You know, he wanted to play with a swollen knee, and they didn't think he'd be fit for the Bournemouth game. But it, you know, you got the impression he would, you know, if you chopped his ankles off, he would come in and play regardless. It was just that sort of attitude to have that. So if you take Declan Rice's personality out of the Arsenal team, I'd be saying, well, maybe they will have another wobble. But with him there, even if he's like injured again for a few games, I think his presence in the squad is really important. I think he's that important to them. Most fellow journalists I see at Arsenal games, they come out back into the press room afterwards and they're all going, Declan Rice.
So we're at Declan Rice now, Greg. A few days ago we were talking about Arsenal's MVP. How do you pick him?
This is the thing.
They've got loads of
This
MVPs,
is the thing.
clearly.
There are a lot of kind of totemic sort of figures, because I said the same about Gabriel. Like when you got Gabriel and Saliba playing as that partnership, I know you had a howler in this game, but it's rare, and he made up for it in the other box. He's such a threat in the other box as well. So, like, and then Odegaard is coming back into his best sort of form. Saka, they couldn't even afford to just, like, dip him out, but he's still, like, you know, when you get into the late stages of the Champions League, you could win it for them. Like, he's that good a player. There are so many players who are just like.
So just to be clear, we've gone from Manchester City are favourites over Christmas to now Arsenal are going to win the quadruple. Just check. We're all allowed a flip-flop. It's the flip-flop season. Actually, Pete, you didn't flip-flop to Manchester City, so I can say to you, Pete, still Arsenal favourites for you for the title?
Yeah, still favourites.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, Pete looks like the smart one. There you go. Alison, just very quickly on Bournemouth. Any worries at all about Bournemouth and Andoni Iraola? 9 points above West Ham. In 15th at the minute, as you say, been on a dreadful run. But is it just a blip and it'll come good?
I think they'll be okay. But weirdly, the fact that Semenyo played, I think there was this sort of like
it's like they're pretending it's not
theory.
Happening. La la la.
Yeah.
Hello, Antoine. Yeah, off you go. Yep.
But it's a really hard thing to do, to play knowing you're probably about to leave, and it's not your last game. You're probably going to play on Wednesday night as well, so you can't make it a big deal, and you don't want to get injured if you're going to have a big 65 million quid move. He was still okay, I think, but what it did was, I think it showed that a sort of slightly under, they still played well with him under par, so they'll probably be all right when he's gone, and their model will still just about see them through. I mean, Junior Krupi, I haven't double checked, but I think his goals per minute is must be better than Erling Haaland's now, who didn't score. I mean, he's just somebody, they take these young teenagers and say, you'll get Premier League minutes, honestly, and then they just always shine.
There's a little unhappiness with their model as well, which when they came to Chelsea and was just seeing what some of the supporters were saying was quite similar in terms of the criticisms, because they were saying there's too much change.
As in the player model, as in bringing those players like
because
Alison
there has
said,
been
make them brilliant and then sell them to Man City and everyone else.
Yeah, because obviously they're losing Semenyo. And look, I mean, it's not just that. It's obviously there's uncertainty about the manager, and I think the president of commercial operations came out and said, together anything is possible, and the responses from the fans like, well, it doesn't feel like everything's together because everyone's moving through, leaving all the time. So slightly premature maybe, but there's always, when you have that kind of change, there's always the risk that it can catch up with you.
You can have too much in one go, and he's had a lot to take on board, Iraola.
Yeah, hopefully Andoni Iraola will turn it round for Bournemouth fans. But if you do have some views on the status of the club, get in touch with me, tom.clark@thetimes.co.uk. Pete, as well as covering the madness at Chelsea, you were also at Craven Cottage to watch Fulham 2, Liverpool 2. What a great fun game this was. Liverpool thought they'd snatched it at the end, only to then retreat right basically onto their goal line and think, Harrison Reed's not going to put this in the top corner. No chance. What a wonderful thing to see. There are not enough Thunder Blasters anymore, are there? What a wonderful goal. What a wonderful strike.
Yeah, the kind of goal scored by someone who just doesn't know what to do once they've done it. Just sort of wheeling away.
Yeah, he ran all over the place. They're my favourite celebrations, aren't they?
First goal for 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's had quite a difficult season, Harrison Reed. He's not played. I think he started a Premier League game. So a huge moment for him. And
in terms of the result, about the fair result on the balance of play? Liverpool would have kind of considered to have pinched this, wouldn't they, if they got the 2-1 win? Or...
Yeah, they had a decent spell after half-time. They had more chances, but it's what's characterised this unbeaten run. It's 9 games unbeaten now, but it's just very stodgy, and it's very, the way they're playing is very narrow. It's not very exciting. It's certainly not as entertaining as Arne Slot, I think, talked about when he joined the club, and it was interesting that that's what he referred to afterwards. You know, saying my philosophy hasn't changed. If I could play 8 attackers, then I would.
Which is weird because he didn't play 8 attackers last season. And
no,
that
didn't.
would work quite well. 3 very solid midfielders, good wing backs, Mo Salah.
Clearly, he's quite conscious of that. But what he's doing is, it's a 4-2-3-1. It's very narrow. You had Curtis Jones on the left. You had Szoboszlai on the right. Yes, there's absences. There's no Isak. Mohamed Salah's African Cup of Nations. Hugo Ekitike had muscle soreness, so wasn't involved. But it's, it really does feel like they're just papering over cracks. Just hold it together, like it's fragile, and it's picked up, the results, which is great. But it's not thrilling. The first half was not very entertaining. I mean, Fulham switched to a back 3 as well, so there were no wingers on the pitch, so everything was in tight spaces and couldn't get through the middle, and that's why there's that sort of. I don't know, Alison, you'll watch more Liverpool than I do, but it's not. It's recovered from that awful couple of months where they weren't winning a game. Florian Wirtz is now, had 3 goals.
Wirtz is now scoring,
4.
but not playing very well, whereas he was playing well and not scoring.
Yeah.
Weird.
So it's...
At what point does Florian Wirtz become a disastrously bad signing, or are we just going to wait until he becomes good?
Well, I think everyone would be happy if he keeps scoring and not playing pretty football. But there was a period where everyone was saying, "Oh, you can see he's a really class player. Look at that touch, look at that layoff, look at that vision." But he's not. There's no assist or goal, and now he started scoring. The rest of his game has been really quite disappointing.
There's so many bodies around him. I mean, it's just
I don't think anyone will ever say he's a disastrous sign. I think there's a possibility they'll say he wasn't worth 116 million or whatever it was. But that's a way off yet as well. I mean, should we also talk about the VAR decision, the offside?
Thick lines, Gregor. Thick lines. Thin
lines,
lines,
But
thick lines.
there have been, but it's not consistent. There have been decisions similar that have not gone the way of the attacker. So I don't understand.
I don't know whether I even want to bring it in, to be honest, Gregor. There's enough games gone nonsense with all the manager stuff. If we start talking about VAR, let's just go back to Harrison Reed. What a goal! What a goal! What a wonderful footballing goal.
Although Hamza even tried, I saw Hamza saying something about, this is about set plays. The fascination with set pieces. They flooded the box because they thought a long throw was going to come in.
And then he went,
we're just going to throw it. Yeah. Hamza still found a sort of negative about set pieces, the set piece revolution that wonder goal.
No way it's planned that Harrison Reed is shooting from 25 yards.
That's the 97th minute tactic from Marco Silva. Right, boys, what we're going to do is throw it to Harrison. He's going to bang it straight in the top corner.
Didn't he say he'd been doing it in training, though?
They always
he said
say
he'd been
that.
practicing, yeah.
Come on, Gregor, as a former footballer, you always say that, don't you?
It's
Bet
easy
you
in
said
training.
you said that after you scored direct from a corner, didn't you?
No.
To the local reporter who turned up,
hello,
Gregor, do you do that all the time?
No one would buy that, Tom.
I'm sure they probably would. Let's just quickly talk about the bottom of the table. West Ham United beaten by Wolves. A big win for Rob Edwards. On to 6 points now, hoping to make sure they don't have that new record for the lowest points tally in the Premier League. But this was a disastrous result for Nuno Espirito Santo. He's speaking in a press conference this afternoon, which Gary Jacob will be reporting on. They play Nottingham Forest 18th against 17th tomorrow night. Gregor Robertson, the man for the big occasion, is going to be there. You excited for this one, Gregor? I asked you last time as well about Forest. You said you weren't worried. They lost again.
Yeah, I'm still not really worried about them.
Not really worried.
Not
Listeners,
really,
that's
no.
a change in tone slightly. Last time it was defiant. Now he's not really worried. But this is a massive game
huge,
for both teams, isn't it?
I'm sure it'll be dire.
0-0 all over it.
I'm sure it will be awful, but it's going to be weighty. And yeah, it's really, really, really huge. Particularly, a lot of people feel that West Ham are dead and buried.
Yeah.
But
well, I've got a good friend of mine who's a West Ham season ticket holder, and he's been saying for weeks and months, we're down, we're done, we're down, regardless of if we sign people.
But a win against Forest would
changes
shift
everything.
That.
Yeah.
So it's huge, particularly I think for West Ham. And West Ham are trying to make moves in the transfer market already, like signing lots of attackers and stuff. They need some defenders. Like we saw it again. It was just calamitous stuff. Although Manny looks thrilling for Wolves. Like great to see a youngster like 18 just coming on and playing with like such freedom. But this game is going to be huge, and I mean, Martin Samuel wrote this morning about what it would mean for West Ham to go down to the Championship, and like I think he's right. We said for so long that if you're a relegated team from the Premier League, you have to be really stupid to not be in the mix to get promoted straight back these days because of parachute payments and sort of size of West Ham as well. But they are being run really stupidly for a long time now. And
also, if they went down, they don't keep Jared Bowen. No way. So
no, he pointed out who would get taken. Jared Bowen. I think he included Diouf, the left back.
Paquetá would be gone, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but although he said it would be a lot cheaper than it was a couple of years ago, which is true. And he'd put in Diouf, like probably because he's 21, but he can't defend. Anyway, there are not many players, and the point is the atmosphere. And imagine the London Stadium in the Championship, like maybe not entirely full. Oh my God, it's bad in the Premier League. Imagine it in the Championship. So he's right. It's like West Ham are at a big juncture, and this month I've said it, like you don't like to just say they've got to sign players because it's really basic, but West Ham need to sign players, and particularly defenders.
Yeah, it's future of the club stuff, isn't it? Just finally then, looking at the bottom of the table, we've got Wolves in 20th, Burnley in 19th, West Ham 18th, Nottingham Forest 17th, then Leeds after that brilliant run, but creating a bit of a gap, a 4-point gap in 16th, then Bournemouth and Palace. How surprised would we be, or how likely do we think it will be that the bottom of the table looks exactly like that at the end of the season? Where do we think the changes might come, or could it look exactly like that?
I think there's a good chance it'll look like that. Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, I'm not writing West Ham off yet because I think everything being all said and done, Nuno's a good coach. Like I think they will strengthen this month. I think you'll see some more life at some point. The question mark is still who's going to be dragged in. I don't know the answer to that because I think Leeds are in a great run, but it's possible Leeds, return to something more like the form before they change formation and Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets injured and they're like, oh, that's possible. Bournemouth selling their best player. We all think they're great. Iraiola's great. They shouldn't get dragged in, but they can.
Yeah.
So above that, no. You've got Bournemouth, Leeds and Forest. There's no one else.
Yeah.
No, I agree with Gregor. I think Daniel Farke's done a brilliant job. I mean, pleased for him at this point. As Gregor says, it can change. But to be in that real crucible moment and then pull something out that changes the direction of the team. And yes, Calvert-Lewin's been really important, but they're doing really, really well.
I'd love Wolves to not be the worst team in Premier League history and go on a bit of a run. I mean, they'll still go down, but it'd be nice if they went down with a bit of
swagger. Of spirit, bit of swagger.
Yeah. Because we were all very negative about Edwards going in, but
well, they've played some all right stuff at times
team.
against
he
Arsenal and Manchester United. Yeah.
If that could be translated onto the pitch, that'd be nice.
Yeah, more big games to come in this mid-week round of fixtures and more madness, I'm sure, that you can read about on the Times website, but we'll leave it there for now. Alison Rudd, Peter Rutzler and Gregor Robertson, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you too for listening. Me and Gregor will be back with an EFL Extra show and we'll see you with the regular show on Thursday.